What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Hellbender. So I got the great opportunity to check out a brand new Shudder original right before it comes out on February 24th, this coming Thursday, and yeah, big thanks to those over at Shudder for sending me over an early screener. For anybody who's not familiar with what Shudder is, it's a streaming service all about horror movies. They have their own exclusives, originals, as well as classic horror films, and a bunch of other random horror films on there. I've covered a bunch of their exclusives and originals here so far, and here we are with one of the newer ones for this year, 2022, called Hellbender. Now, going into it, there was something about that name and some of the imagery that I had seen already that seemed pretty cool. And I have to start this off by being completely honest and saying that I was not a fan of this movie. There were times where there were parts of this movie and the premise of this movie that I really enjoyed. But ultimately, I thought to myself as I was watching it, if Netflix was putting out originals like this, I think that people would probably cancel their subscription. That's not me saying that people should cancel their subscription to Shudder, because there's actually a lot of great stuff on the platform. But yeah, I just couldn't imagine another big name streaming service being like, yeah, let's put this movie out as one of our originals. Hellbender tells the story of a teenage girl and her mother who live up in the mountains. They're secluded, and she's been told by her mom that she has an autoimmune disease and that she needs to stay away from other people. Well, it turns out that they actually have ties to witchcraft in their life, in their lineage, and this girl is actually what they call in this movie a Hellbender, a mix between a witch and a demon, and pretty much just an entity, an individual that if they consume blood of any kind, they become this all-powerful demonic entity, essentially. And so this young girl, this teenager, she's a little disassociated from life. She's detached from life because of the way that her mom's chosen to raise her, and over the course of the film, she starts to discover things about her lineage, who she is. She starts to like it, and her and her mom kind of have to battle that as her mom tries to keep that under wraps or keep it controlled. And yeah, the premise of that movie sounds cool to me on paper. You know, you have this mom trying to keep her daughter away from society because she knows the danger her daughter can cause, and the two of them are kind of just living out secluded. But over the course of the movie, it's kind of this mother trying to teach her daughter of this power that she's uncovered now that she has within herself. And you know, as far as the horror element of this movie, there are elements in terms of visuals and stuff like that that lean into very creepy, eerie, you know, effects and stuff like that, but it's not really a scary movie. You know, there are some of the effects in this movie that do not hold up and do not really look good for a modern movie. You know, they look like very cheap early 2000s, you know, made for TV effects at times. Yeah, it wasn't good. I was not into the story. Like I said, I liked that premise, and I liked a lot of scenes and moments within this premise, but ultimately it comes down to the execution. And for me, I found myself bored. I was watching it with my fiance. She fell asleep. My roommate, the Big Rob Theory, came in for the last portion of it, and every scene he was just like, what is going on? And I told him as we were watching it with him that I wish I could tell you, bro. I genuinely wish I could tell you. The movie is, you know, pretty straightforward to follow. It's not like you're going to be confused watching it, but there really isn't much of a story. It feels more like a series of events than it does an actual story with these series of events that are, you know, part of the story. Ultimately, this movie was lackluster for me. There really wasn't much to it. The performances weren't all that compelling for me. The writing wasn't all that compelling for me. There was a good use of ambient background music and stuff like that from time to time, and there were some moments where they tried to lean into some kind of creepy, eerie tones that I do think kind of worked, but ultimately the story around it and the clash of tones at times throughout the course of the film is ultimately what took me out of it. There are moments where this movie is a little bit more upbeat and kind of fun and vibrant, and then there are times where the movie is very dark and just kind of weird. And ultimately, I don't think that those two tones ever really meshed in a really incredible way. In a way, this movie kind of reminded me of a movie that I recently saw and covered on the channel called The Greasy Strangler, where it's a film that's built around the idea of being absurd and ridiculous and almost kind of wants to just be more about the shock value than it does want to be about the characters or the story. I'm not saying this movie is on the level of Greasy Strangler, and The Greasy Strangler is way more entertaining than this, but yeah, it felt like that kind of movie, that they were going for something that was a little bit absurdist, and it's kind of intentionally absurdist. And ultimately, by the time the movie was over, I just found myself bored. That's the worst thing a movie can be for me. I've talked about it here on the channel on a million occasions. If a movie is boring for me, I'm just not crazy about it. Now, the things I want to highlight about the film are, again, the premise. I think the premise was pretty solid. And then our two main actors are Toby Poser, who plays the mother, as well as the daughter named Zelda Adams. Now, funny enough, they're actually the writers and the directors of this film as well, alongside a man named John Adams that I'm assuming is the father of Zelda Adams. There's also Lulu Adams in this film, and I believe there's another Adams that's in this film as well. So yeah, it seems like it's more of a family project, a passion project, and on that level I can appreciate it, right? Like if this was a movie or something that I kind of stumbled upon on YouTube or something, I probably wouldn't be as critical of it because it would just be like a random thing that's there. But as a movie that's coming out, a movie that you're probably going to wonder if you should spend your time on, maybe you've stumbled upon this video because you watch my channel already, or you're somebody who just saw this pop up on Shudder and you're curious what people have to say about it. Ultimately, yeah, this is not a movie that I think is really worth people's time. It's boring, it's dull, it doesn't really bring anything fresh and new to the table. There is an interesting premise there, and I think the standout performance in the film is given by Zelda Adams, but I don't think the writing does anybody any real favors here, and by the time the movie was over, I can just genuinely say that I was just kind of like, yeah, I'll never watch that again. So that's going to be my thoughts on Hellbender. Yeah, this is an interesting movie. Oh, one other thing I want to touch on is that the mother and the daughter have a band in this movie that goes by the same name, Hellbender, which is also what they are, funny enough. And yeah, over the course of the movie, they have like little musical moments where they're playing in this band, and the music is just so strange and just not good. And it very much reminded me of something like I said, a Greasy Strangler, something that's going for this very out of this world, very absurd feel and vibe. I do think there was a good premise here. I just don't think the execution was all that great for me, but I am curious to hear what people have to say. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you comment your thoughts as well, do you like this movie, do you not like this movie? Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say and want to see if there's more opinions out there. Again, a big thanks to you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, bye-bye.